Well, hello everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video, we are reviewing a Netflix Australian limited series called Stateless. If you want to like and subscribe, as always, you're awesome, and stay tuned. So you're probably wondering, what is Stateless? Well, Stateless is a limited series that was originally on the ABC and then Netflix got the rights to it. It currently goes for 6 episodes and it came out originally in 2020 in March, and it's an Australian show. So you're probably wondering who the cast is. Well, the first pretty big name is Cate Blanchett, and she is in Lord of the Rings most famously from, and Keddie is also in this show, and she was in Offspring, and Courtney is famous from the Suicide Squads. What is this show about? So first of all, story about refugee camps. And we get to see different stories about the refugees in the camps and also stories about the prison guards guarding them. And we also get to see someone that's Australian that somehow, by mysterious means, finds their way in the camp, and refugees somehow want to get into Australia, and for some reason she wants to get out of Australia, so it has its twists and turns and really engages you with different perspectives and life journeys throughout the characters.
Okay, so let's get into scoring for it. So what did you give it, Jacob, going through our 10 areas that we score it and giving it its final number?
So with our first category with the plot, I gave it an 8. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but for me, being Australian, watching an Australian show, I thoroughly enjoyed the plot and I thought it was engaging. It was boring at the start. I think that's when it didn't nail it, but besides that, really enjoyed the plot there.
And characters?
Characters, it gets a 7.5. Really enjoyed the characters, but no one really was a standout, but they were all extremely good characters, and the acting comes in with the characters. I think the acting was superb. Australian caliber, Cate Blanchett that I mentioned, everyone puts in their job and really enjoyed the acting.
Give the acting
a 9, yeah. That's probably the main thing it does well. It keeps you engaged throughout the show. The acting, I think it's the best thing about the show, is that the acting caliber is high class.
And in terms of entertainment, what factor would you give it?
6.5. I don't think it's very engaging and really enjoyable. If you're not really Australian, I don't think it'll engage you that much, but it does. It's more of an eye-opener, and I think that's why you would watch it, yeah.
Visually, what did you rank it?
A 7. I really enjoyed the visuals of how showing Australian landscape and throughout its thing, yeah.
And pacing and feel of the show?
Also a 7. There were boring parts at the start, but once it got through the motions, it was a really good show, and definitely enjoyed the chemistry of why does this person want to get their immigration at the start, and that keeps you engaged in the debate about should we save the immigrants or, yeah. 8. I enjoyed the ending. Not everyone gets the satisfying ending, but it wasn't disappointing. I thought it ended in a way that is realistic, and I thoroughly enjoyed the ending.
Yeah, originality and uniqueness of this show?
I gave it a 9. I can't really think of any other show that tackles immigration, but I would say it's not for everyone, so I think it does deserve that score.
And you've slightly mentioned before the target audience. Who is the target audience for this show, and what did you give it out of 10?
Oh, I think that's its weakest point. It doesn't really, besides Australians, I can't really say who this show is for, and it doesn't really nail it besides that, but it still is a good show. I just don't know if I could recommend it to everyone.
And for the all-important time value, was it worth watching? What did you give it out of 10?
For me, it was definitely worth watching. It was a 9. I thoroughly enjoyed the show and seeing the immigration and different things like that. It was thoroughly worth watching.
And your total score once you add them all together, what'd you give it?
77.5 out of 100. I think it definitely deserved that score. It's not a high caliber show, but it was still worth watching and was engaged and impacted throughout the time that I watch it. And it is a limited series, so that's a bonus as well.
Yeah, awesome.
What was your score?
So going through the list, so plot, I think the plot was a bit out there, but it was based upon a true story, so I gave it 7.5 of the plot. The characters were good, but some either frustrated me or I thought was a bit embellished. I'm thinking the security guard was a bit over the top, the way they try to make him become everyone's friend, then abusive towards his wife. I think whether or not that's realistic of what happens to people in that environment, and I also think the main character, that she was mentally ill or not, and her journey of wanting to get deported from Australia, I thought was really, really far-fetched. But if it is based upon true events, yes, maybe it's not too far-fetched. Acting, same as Jacob, I gave that a 9 out of 10. I thought the acting was really, really high quality. It had a really good cast. Entertaining, 6.5. It felt slow at times and kind of dragged on, but I was intrigued to find out what happened because it did engage you with the stories about the refugees, but I didn't find myself overly interested in them. I think maybe there was too many stories. Maybe it needed to be not as many different people to feel sorry for, maybe just one central person. Visually, I gave it 6.5. There wasn't much scenery or things to look at. It was set in the desert, so it couldn't really excel in that area, but I guess it gave an inside look to what a refugee camp looks like, and it seemed representative from what I can imagine. Pacing, 6 out of 10 it was. It felt slow and dragged on, and I must say I was looking forward to when it ended, and when it did, it felt like it wasn't complete, so it dragged on and also felt rushed, which is a really odd thing to say. Ending, 8 out of 10. We kind of got what you expected to happen. Not all happy ending is a real story. It's only going to be what actually happened. Uniqueness and originality is probably for me where it scored its best, besides the fact that it had a good cast. So I gave it 8.5 out of 10. The concept of focusing on refugee camps, trying to get you to feel for these people and what's going on. As an Australian, this has been a topic that's been in the news for many, many years and will continue to be in the news. So it's shed light on something that I've somehow avoided or not known much about. So for that, I think made it unique and original. Target audience, I actually gave it quite a high score, 8, 6.5. It's a weird target audience for it to have because it's mainly just Australians, but I think because of the casting choice, Australians would have given it the time of day and watched it. So I think it hit its target audience, but its target audience is very small, being that of Australians. Was it worth its time? 7.5. I gave it a lot lower than Jacob's 9. I think it could have been a lot better. I kind of pushed my way through it, but I think being an Australian show is what made me want to give it the time of day, but I don't think I would recommend it to other people now that I've finished it. So that gave it a grand total of 74.5%. 3% lower than what Jacob gave it. Do you think they're fair scores for being an Australian limited series?
Yes, I think so.
I think so as well. Australian limited series have been kind of hit and miss. Sometimes we might get caught up on the fact that the stars that they get in them, but we get the same actors and actresses a lot in Australia, so kind of exactly what you thought it was going to be. So if you haven't seen the show, you may not want to see what we have to say next, so tune out there. Otherwise, let's discuss some things.
So do you think she was mentally unwell, or do you think she was smart enough because she stole the identity when the police officer was after her? She quickly memorized what she needed to, she was smart and unwell. No one would try to do what she was trying to do.
I think that she is somewhat mentally unwell. Whether she did have schizophrenia and was seeing these people and having or she was just having flashbacks, or it was just for the sake of television they had that, I'm not sure. But she clearly had something going on. The fact that the rest of her family were having success in life, and she was kind of floaty and la-di-da and did what she wanted to party and have fun. Not saying that that's wrong, but if it's a matter of their upbringing, she went a different path but had the same upbringing, so maybe it was something a bit different with her mentally. And yeah, I don't know if she had schizophrenia though. What are your thoughts?
I guess it's more what the show portrays it, but I think it's a bit of both. I think she was mentally unwell, but I think she was smart enough to steal someone's identity.
And she obviously really wanted to run away from something and what was going on in her home life. So what do you think about that? How much of that do you think is true, with led to believe that she was raped by these people that she was giving money to be part of this cult that did dancing? It's a very, very strange thing. How much of that do you think is true?
I guess it was true, but how obviously shows like to dramatize things and things like that, so only people that were around would really know.
Do you think the reaction's reasonable if that did happen to her, like to want to steal someone's identity and get deported? Do you think that's over the top, or do you think there's other ways she probably could have sought help?
There's probably other ways, but I guess in her mind that's the choice she wanted to do.
I was thinking the show was going to lead to a point where she could not dob this guy in because he was going to kill her and they were bad criminals, but it seemed like she probably could have told the authorities or told her family and maybe got to a better solution, but she felt that running away to Germany and taking on someone's identity was going to be a better choice. So maybe she was really mentally unwell to choose that option.
The argument throughout the show is, should we feel sorry for the immigrants? Should we bring them all in? What do you think?
Oh, that's a really big question when you bring refugees and immigrants into it. I guess this show gave me a different perspective that I didn't have before. And I definitely have a more, appreciation for the struggles that refugees go through. But as an Australian, it's hard to know where to stop and who we can invite and whether we can actually afford people struggling that were born here and grew up here, and opening the gates to people that are also going through struggles. Where do we stop? And I'm not educated enough to be able to answer where it does stop. So what do you think?
I think my main argument is that unfortunately, and this is realistic, we can't help everyone. It would be lovely if we could, but unfortunately not everyone can be saved because life isn't a bunch of rainbows.
Like they all have sad stories, but how quickly can we process people and give them asylum? I'm sure they could speed up the process a little bit, but if it's just as simple as you show up and you go, I'm here, can I move into Australia? And they go, there you go, you're good to go, like as though you just came in off a plane. The country would be pretty full pretty quickly if we made it that simple. So I guess there's got to be some kind of deterring factor.
I guess, do we feel sorry for the immigrant family that they showed their perspective from, or the Australian?
So you're talking about the guy that came over separately with his family, his wife and one of his children died, and they were kind of reunited. I do feel sorry for his story, but I guess him getting deported back to his country, even though he didn't do the thing they're accusing him of, he did ultimately steal and cause harm to someone else in order to get his way over here. So do we know what else he's capable of? Do we know why he was running from whatever he was originally from his home country? Like, he may actually be a bad person. We don't know. So what do you think about that? Would you let him in, or do you feel sorry for him?
I think the main thing is that his daughter's okay, and as long as that happens, I guess everyone gets their just desert.
Do you, neither of us have been in a refugee camp, but do you think this is a true representation, or you reckon it's a bit embellished?
I guess it's a bit embellished, but I wouldn't know. I haven't been in one.
My only thought is at the end it said specifically that they have now moved these detention centres or refugee camps off to other countries, Papua New Guinea, I think Manus Island might be another one, that because it basically makes it impossible for people to come over and see what's going on, and it stops the press from being able to see what's going on. So that makes me think, are you hiding something if you've needed to take it away so that people can't see what's going on? So I reckon it probably is pretty bad. I wouldn't know, I haven't been there.
Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, you're awesome. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.